thanks, Kelly. It seems like there is a lot of excitement out there in the exhibit hall. So many things to see and to experience. Thank you for bringing us some of the exhibitors. There's something I'm really excited about. I've been following in the newspapers, and that is this broadband initiative that Donaldsonville, Georgia is doing. They're trying to make Donaldsonville a smart rural city. And with me is Mayor Dan Ponder. And Dan, I think this was kind of your brainchild, and you're working with some companies to bring broadband to and for those of you who aren't familiar with Donaldsonville, it's
the county seat of Seminole County. It's in the very southwest corner of the state.
Yeah.
It's right above Lake Seminole, where the Chattahoochee River and Flint Rivers come
together. It is God's country.
It is
where
absolutely
it is.
God's country.
Dan, what are some of the challenges? And I find this interesting because I think, especially people who live in urban areas in the Metro Atlanta area, don't comprehend what it's like where you don't have easy access to high-speed internet and broadband. What are some of the challenges your community faces without broadband?
Well, we have broadband in the center of the city, of course, and in most of the city it's available, but not necessarily high speed. And and then, of course, the further away you get from the city out into the rural areas of the county, it gets further poorer and poorer until it's just practically non-existent. And so the things that you take for granted in everyday life, and especially as the population has moved to smartphones, and all you have to do is walk around this hall and see how many people are on their smartphone, you realize how connected we are. And so that's why it's important for rural America, rural communities, to figure out a way that they can participate in this explosion of
and what you guys are doing, my hope is that it's something that can be replicated. And I know it's this is a test kind of for the companies and for you as well.
Right. I mean, our initial premise is what would happen if you brought world-class internet to a rural city and made it available to every citizen. So that's the kind of premise of the
and share some of the things that you guys have done. I mean, you guys had a Net Days to show people what it's like. And what were some of the activities?
Well, the purpose of Net Days was to actually validate, is it feasible that to do certain things with high-speed internet in a less controlled situation, but also would people buy into it? Would the community itself respond to the kinds of things that could happen? And so we did a variety of things, from streaming in movies to have movie nights. We had, particularly with the school system, because education is a big part of the possibilities, we actually had, for instance, a world-famous photographer that is world-famous about Antarctica. I mean, and if you follow penguins and all the wildlife in Antarctica.
Cool.
And so she's in California while we have an interactive discussion with a 5th grade class. And the technology that's available today is just extraordinary.
It's amazing.
And good enough that she could recognize kids in the back of the class raising their hand. And so it's not a one-way stream, it's a dual stream. And we also did things where we had concerts, where we had, my particular favorite was we had 2 music professors actually from the University of South Alabama playing Mozart's concerto for 4 hands, so 2 pianos, 300 miles apart, playing in real time.
And it was
extraordinary.
Seamless and wonderful.
Yes.
And so the community has responded.
The community has. Our first Net Day, we had about 150 there. The second Net Days, we had about 500 people there. We had to move it, and in that one, we actually had interaction with in China. We had a children's choir performing for Donaldsville performing for multiple places in China. And
so the
and around
cultural
the
exchange, the educational exchange, and of course the issue of healthcare as well.
Telemedicine is a huge opportunity. We're fortunate to have a very good hospital in Douglasville, but even the equipment in even the most basic doctor's offices are being designed in a way that
they require
larger and larger
data pipes, I guess, is the best way to explain it.
That's right. It's one way to explain it.
So who are the companies that you guys are working with?
Well, Huawei is the primary.
That's just fun to say, too.
Right. It's the largest telecommunications company in the world. It's not very well known, especially in a retail sense here in the United States.
Right.
But they provide telecommunications and switches and infrastructure around the world, very well known. And we work with Sozo Solutions, which is a company that actually works to facilitate opportunities between companies in China and companies in the United States. That's how the project got started in the first place. We're now also working with Emphasis, which is an Indian company, and it has $9 billion in sales. Huawei's about $62 billion. So they're large companies, hundreds of thousands of employees. Emphasis is helping us to try to design an app, because it's not enough just to have fast, a fast connection. It's what do you do with it, and how do people access it? And so we're hoping that we can come up with what is truly the first rural city smart app that will push certain sort of educational things and content that we're trying to build that will lift the city up socially. Right.
And what do you think the economic impact will be for the city?
Well, it is really not about the internet. It is about making your city more competitive as a rural city, but also creating a culture where companies that don't want to live in a city of 5 million people but do want to have that kind of access might be interested in looking. And I can tell you that, it is certainly, even though we haven't gone live, it has put Douglasville on the map. And amazingly, it's not companies from China. It's the companies are from all over the world who have an interest in what we're doing.
Right.
And whether all that pans out from an economic development standpoint is yet to be seen, but certainly we're having conversations that we weren't having.
Because then you could live in God's country.
That's right.
And work there and be connected to, if you work for a company in France, you could be in the best place in the world, and
that's exactly right.
And work for a company, across the globe. What is the timeline on this? Kind of when will you?
We have put what made Douglasville a good test site is it's a small community, small footprint. It's flat. And we had strategically placed water towers that would cover the entire city. And we had few pine trees, believe it or not, which soaks up the microwaves. And
I didn't know that.
So even though we live in a place where there are a lot of pine trees within the city limits, there really weren't as many as you might expect. And so those four factors went together. We have completed the installation of the equipment on the water towers. We've completed the installation of, in a layman's term, the computer towers within City Hall that are driving all this. And we now have, although it's not available to the public yet, we have the Wi-Fi around City Hall and in downtown. And so what's happening now is we're working to make it available throughout the city. We're starting to turn on segment by segment or neighborhood by neighborhood, if you will. So we hope to have that over the next 3 months.
Wow.
So we have made a lot of progress in the past year.
That's great. And people just are you hearing a lot of comments about it?
We hear a lot of comments. People's vision of the internet or broadband or even an app is based on their own experience, and so we're trying to broaden that. We're holding town hall meetings and a lot of outreach things.
Well, and you guys have the Bainbridge College satellite campus there in downtown Douglasville, and I'm sure this will be useful for those students as well. So it's not just elementary, it's high school, it's college.
That's correct. And we're also working with other universities who have similar technology to bring in classes that perhaps wouldn't be available through Bainbridge College.
That's
so
great. That's amazing.
It really opens up the world to more specialized things.
And how will it just be within the city, or will it extend out from the city limits?
Well, to make this sustainable long term, we either the city has to support it through tax dollars, or we have, and we've kind of have migrated in our business model. Initially, it was going to be free to everyone, and now we have kind of have a hybrid model where certain businesses or individuals might pay for it, and we think it'd be competitive and very high speed and reliable, but also it would be free to people who did certain things or had certain needs. For instance, if you didn't graduate from high school and you took GED classes, you could get free Wi-Fi,
that's
and
great.
or if you're a single
So
parent,
you're
and
incentivizing
that's right.
further education
Because
too.
and I say all the time, it's not just about the internet.
It's not. It's
just
it's a tool that gets you somewhere else.
That's right.
That's great.
Right.
And you're presenting at one of the rapid fire sessions
I am.
on Monday, I
on
believe.
Monday.
Yes,
I'm going to take about a 3-hour discussion and try to condense it into 7 minutes.
So I'm like, that's really tough. But I'm so excited. I can't wait to see how this turns out. And I think when you look around the state and you see the need for high-speed internet and the choices that companies and families and individuals make about where they're going to locate, and that is one of the things that they look at. And I think what you guys are doing, especially if it's something that can be recreated elsewhere, it would be just amazing.
Well, we realize that we are a test for these companies and really for ourselves, and hopefully it'll be replicated, because the need for high-speed broadband in rural Georgia and really rural America is only going to continue to increase.
Because you're already a little bit behind the curve, and you don't want to get further.
That's right. Well, we don't want to get further behind. We actually want to catch up and pass.
That's right. You want to be the leaders.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited about what you guys are doing, and thank you for joining us today.
Well,
and I'm
thanks,
going to be keeping
for
my
having
eye
me.
on what's going on with
we'll
that.
look forward to having you to Douglasville and check it out yourself.
Yes, I'll have phone reception, and I can search Google. That'll be great.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, we're going to go back out to Kelly in the hall and meet some more of our vendors.